Order Mad as Hell on iTunes, available now.
In a column published in both the Washington Post and the New York Post, Fox News contributor George Will dismissed claims of college sexual assault, using scare quotes around the term while stating students see victimhood as a coveted status. This is from Raw Story. Writing that college administrators are being educated by Washington, Will writes, they are learning that when they say campus victimizations are ubiquitous, they are promoting the idea that victimhood is a coveted status that confers privileges. Victims proliferate.
So this guy's unreal.
Oh my God.
Right.
Like, talk about, there is no bigger insult to injury than telling a rape victim that she wanted it because now she has reached some sort of coveted status on campus.
Yeah. So look, it's not to say that no one has ever made it up. Of course, that's why you have trials,
Yeah.
right? Just because somebody alleges rape or sexual assault doesn't mean by definition it happened, right? That's why we have a justice system, right? You can go through a process. But he seems to, in his enormous dismissal of it, like, oh, most of it is like this thing of you want this celebrity status. Like it's so removed from reality, where telling a woman like being the victim of a sexual assault is something that's coveted and makes you a celebrity and a no, only in your crazy world, only in your crazy mind do you view it that way. These are the same guys who always say like, oh, black men have it so easy in this country. That's why it was so easy for Obama to win the presidency. That's why, of course, 42 out of our, 44 presidents have been black, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, like, he's the first one. There's a reason for that. But in their mind, they love being victims. That's why, like, whenever there's like Christian persecution in their mind, they're like, oh, yes, we get to be the victims, right? Oh, we're so victimized. So that's why they think like, oh, blacks love being victimized.
Yeah.
Women love being victimized.
Yeah, and that is the ultimate form of bullying, when you take someone who has the courage to speak out about something that's either shaming or humiliating or painful or whatever and say, you just love being the victim. I mean, that's such a bullying statement.
Right.
So how can you even respect or listen to anything he says when he's so far on the other side and the pendulum has swung so far the other way? It's just white noise.
Yeah. Now, meanwhile, we have a second story somewhat related to this, in that more girls are now taking self-defense classes before they go to college, right?
Yeah.
What's that about?
I think it's great. This started in Santa Barbara, California, because there's a gym, or the Paragon Academy, which is a jiu-jitsu gym, says that there's been an increasing demand for kickboxing, jiu-jitsu classes over the past 8 years. The quote from the owner says, I've seen a bit of a change where some high school parents are bringing their girls in, trying to get them ready for college. You can tell there's more concern. The training is effective. Their confidence goes through the roof. They're less likely to get attacked because they're so physically confident. They hold themselves very differently. People that are predators can pick up on that, and they'll seek out a weaker victim.
So the stat is usually the one that's given out, and the one that's in this story in Cosmopolitan is that 1 out of 4 women that are in college are sexually assaulted, right? So it's weird, though. You would think that they would want the coveted status of being a victim. I don't know why they would bother going through self-defense classes.
It makes no sense at all. I never took self-defense classes until I got to college, but I have friends that did, and for whatever reason, because it was not recent, I felt really embarrassed for them, and really embarrassed for myself with the idea of taking self-defense classes.
Really?
Yeah, when I was growing up, this was not something that people talked about. I'm talking about like the 80s and 90s.
Sure.
People didn't say like, oh yeah, girl, you should do this. It was like moms signing their daughters up and daughters fighting them the entire way to the gym. So I don't know, I'm just so glad that the mentality's changed. I wish I had been a part of it at the time, but it just wasn't something people did or wanted to talk about or think about.
Unfortunately, we now know, it's not that it didn't happen before, but we now know that sexual assault is so common in college that people are going to self-defense classes.
Yep.
And like you said, moms are making their daughters go to make sure they're protected.
Yep.
Meanwhile, this jackass on Fox News thinks like, that they're looking forward to it and that it's going to give them some sort of privileges on campus and that they're going to have a coveted status.
Yeah, and if that's true, then why aren't there stories about more women on college campuses sleeping on park benches in their negligees, like asking for it? I mean, this is not happening. People are walking across campus, well lit in the evening, trying to get to their dorm or the library or their friend's house. They're not, sleeping on the grass waiting for the night stalker to come.
Right, and it's interesting because I have a feeling that I'm not saying it's for George Will, and I don't know who it's for, but for some of these guys, it might be a little bit personal, like, oh, she was passed out drunk, now we're calling that rape?
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And remember, these guys also grew up in a different generation, although that happens far too much in this generation, right?
Well, and he even says that he makes a leap from forcible sexual penetration to non-consensual touching. So that's very different to him.
Yeah. So it's one thing to say, like, I remember when I was going to college, some colleges took it over the top in the wrong direction, the opposite direction. And they'd say, I forget what the college was, but one of them, I think it might have been Antioch, said you had to get written permission before you kissed, groped, all these different steps. And at every step you had to get written permission.
That's so hot.
Yeah, it's really hot, right? Okay, so that's beyond all bounds of reason in the opposite direction, right? But like for these guys, oftentimes they're like, oh, now we gotta ask?
Yeah.
Like, and when you're passed out and unconscious, I can't just have sex with you? Like,
I can't be bothered to get a thumbs up or thumbs down from you. But I can't understand this written thing. That's real?
yeah, that was real.
Sign here, date here, and initial here?
Yeah, I was
my
so
God.
mental. No, what people don't realize is that there are real liberal concepts. I don't know how it is these days, right? But back when I was going to college, the country was not nearly as right-wing as it is today, right? And there were some serious liberal rules at some of the colleges. So, like, they're not making up that there was crazy left-wingers.
Sure.
I remember, and I've told the story before, when I was at Penn, I spoke out against the racial harassment guidelines because, and the reason I did that was because it was an obvious infringement of free speech. Like if they judged that you said anything wrong, you were a goner, okay? And now, obviously, I'm not racist. I mean, I think it's obvious to you if you watch the show, right? And I wasn't back then, partly because I don't even know what race I am. Right? I've said it many times. I'm olive skin. I don't like. It's not necessarily white. It's not. I don't know what it is, right? But it's not to say that I couldn't be racist. Of course, there's plenty of Middle Eastern people.
Happen to be.
Right. Okay. Anyway, they literally wouldn't let me speak at the forum where we were going to discuss whether people should be allowed to speak.
Oh.
They started, and the university president was there, and they started booing halfway through my first sentence, and did not allow me or anyone else on that side to speak. And I'm like, well,
Whoa.
if this isn't ironic, I don't know what is, right? And trust me when I say that I wouldn't have spoken out if I didn't think that it had gone over the top in terms of what you couldn't say, et cetera.
Well, and isn't that such a beautiful knee-jerk to when you want to defend people's right to free speech, they call you a racist and boo you off the stage.
Right. And so, yeah, there was that time. And there is some pockets of that. But that's not the norm.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think that they're way overreacting to that if you're being kind to them.
Yeah.